This is Wraith from Wraith Rain. I'm an author of serialized gay romance fiction. Every week on this podcast, I'll be reading a chapter from one of my gay fantasy shifter serials called Dragon's Reign. I'll explain at the break how you can find out more about this story and others I write. So let's get to it. Chapter 29, Change. Despite the heaviness of what he had just said, Valerius gave Caden a fond smile. I know you want to disagree with me. I can see you quivering to tell me how wrong I am. But the thing is, Caden, someone like you could never understand what it is like to be someone like me. Caden shook his head, or rather Iolaire did, or both of them did. It was hard to tell. It's true, now. They let out a burbling cry and pressed their nose against Valerius's chest, clearly to tell him that he was adored and was worth being adored. Valerius laughed. I see that you do not want me to feel sad. It was so absurd that anyone would care if he was sad. Shione would, but she was peculiar. I am not sad, Caden. I am trying to teach you something. More snuffling. Hot dragon breath puffed against his skin, and his hair was blasted back. Both Caden and Iolaire cared very much about him. So ridiculous that they should, Valerius thought. But they do. The response to the kiss could have just been physical desire, but this shows something more. Of course it is something more. As if Caden could be casual about anything, and neither can I. It was a long time ago, Valerius said as he lowered his head. I have long since stopped mourning my brother. Another push of that soft nose against his bare chest. Truly, yes, it hurt to remember that moment, but I will be perfectly content in a short time, Valerius assured them. He stroked Iolaire's head. The white dragon's scales were almost silky. Whenever they moved in the moonlight, he could see that they were many colors and not just white. Magic also ran through their skin. He could feel it beneath his fingertips. Touching Iolaire was addicting. For an instant, he imagined children running up to the white dragon, who would be curled in a ball in the center of Dragonstrike Square. Iolaire would sit there patiently as the children would pet, kiss, and stroke its form. The white dragon and Caden were truly perfectly matched. But that meant they were both so innocent, and saw the best in people, and wanted people to be good. But people were not good. This pressed Valerius to say more about Marwen. Simply remembering my brother and my past life was not why I told you that story. He met those blue eyes again. I wanted to impress upon you just how different we are, though we are both dragon shifters, and to make clear to your trusting little souls that you cannot trust any of the other dragons. I know you will want to befriend them, Caden. Those eyes went wide. Iolaire was excited at the thought of meeting other dragons. Valerius was certain about it, probably thinking they could frolic. Valerius pinched the top of his nose. He just knew it. The white dragon wanted to be among others of its kind. Thankfully, Caden was alarmed. At least, he wasn't ready to flop over onto his back and expose his belly like Iolaire was. I realized that you do not want anyone to know that you are the white dragon shifter, Caden, especially the other dragons. But I do not know if that is possible, though we will try. Valerius sighed. And it might work, but only for a time. They will not leave until they meet him, Valerius muttered internally. They will leave when we make them leave, Raziel growled. Yes, I suppose so. It might come to that, Valerius agreed. Caden-Iolaire looked at him as if reading his mind. Perhaps they were this time, though he could still not hear theirs. They made a sound that said the last thing they wanted was for him to fight anyone, especially not on their behalf. Fighting is what dragons do. Well, maybe not you. Caden-Iolaire trilled at him and snuffled against his chest once more. He felt that unexpected sense of wonder that had struck him the first time Caden had transformed. He ran his hands up and down Iolaire's head once more. He had not expected to feel so moved by another dragon. He'd seen Iolaire before when they'd fought the first day. It and Caden had joined together, but fear and anger had blinded him to the sheer beauty of the white dragon. Was this what it was like for the people who saw him and Raziel? I know you want to make everything better, but people are not so keen to have things be better, Valerius said as he stroked the velvety nose. We will have to talk about all of this, but clearly later, as our ability to communicate is not working right now. Those huge blue eyes gazed at him with adoration, giving lie to his words. Valerius patted their head. Yes, well, you can communicate to me some things, but tonight is about learning how to control your dragon form and giving Iolaire a chance to be free. There is a balance between how much time you should spend in your dragon form and in your human one. Shifting once a day is the minimum. Iolaire looked pleased, but Valerius could see Caden was concerned. Undoubtedly, the young man was worrying how he could balance his job, his home life, and his friends with having to leave the city to shift. Shifting is not a task you have to tick off your list, Caden. It should not be a burden. Your life is different now. You must embrace, not just accommodate, this new aspect of your existence, Valerius told him. He softened his expression as he realized that the way to get Caden to understand this was to explain the impact on Iolaire. Iolaire is, in some ways, imprisoned when it is the two of you and you are in your human form. Those eyes widened with alarm, and there was a sad burble in response. Exactly. So think on that when you believe you have something better to do than shift, or are worried that someone will discover the truth of who you are. These are harsh things to say, Caden, but you must understand the truth of them. He backed up and urged Caden-Iolaire to keep their distance from him so they could stretch. There was a longing look cast at him, but then Caden-Iolaire flapped their wings a little as if to stretch out as much as possible, as opposed to their human form for the white dragon spirit at least. Normally, ceding control to the spirit was not a problem. Valerius frowned as he remembered constantly fighting for control with Raziel. His spirit had not acquiesced with being in their human form at all. He'd had to battle for every second of humanity, but he could not exactly picture the same thing happening between Iolaire and Caden. In fact, he imagined that they would be too busy trying to accommodate one another to ever truly fight. But it also meant that by sheer power of inertia, Caden would stay much too long in their human form. Just one more shift at work, dinner with the family, hanging out with friends, difficulty sneaking out to the fields. Yes, Valerius could see it very well. That had to be snipped in the bud. So, on that note, why do you not let Iolaire explore a little down here, Caden? Iolaire, as well as you, must get used to being in this world and in that form, Valerius suggested. Caden, or Iolaire truthfully, hopped up and down in excitement, making the ground rumble as they tried to communicate their joy. But all that determination was lost when their feet touched the grass again. They stumbled back, fell to the side, jumped up again, curled their tail tightly around them, shuffled backwards, which caused them to trip over said tail, rolled back up to their feet, and the process continued all over again. Grass was obviously something new to Iolaire. It's all new to them, Raziel, Valerius realized with a shake of his head. Every single thing will be the first for them. Look at them, pick up their feet and then send them back down and pick them back up again. They are afraid of grass, Raziel laughed. You were afraid of crickets. Valerius raised an eyebrow at his spirit. Or don't you recall that? And then there was your terror of fish. Raziel looked affronted. Its wings puffed up and it glared at him. That is not the same. The crickets were very loud, yet could not be seen. How was I to ascertain their threat level when I could not find them? And the fish, they are crafty. Crafty fish, is it? I am afraid, old friend, that is exactly the same as the grass. What is unknown can be frightening. As Valerius said this, he looked over at Caden-Iolaire. But once you get used to them, you find you cannot live without them. You have changed your mind on this boy and the white dragon spirit, Raziel stated. It did not ask. Haven't both of us? As Valerius watched Caden-Iolaire now sniff the grass again and poke at it with one claw, lurch backwards and then poke it again, Valerius added, Was there really any chance we were going to let one of the others take him from us? We did have the plan to simply fly them to the edge of the territory and drop them there, Raziel reminded him. Valerius raised an eyebrow. They would have come back. Probably. Raziel flapped its wings, likely feeling confined being inside their human form when the sky looked so perfect for flying. Undoubtedly. They will not stay away from us. They will not stay away from home. Valerius squeezed the top of his nose. Caden was born into our kingdom for a reason. Iolaire came here and chose him. Our kingdom, Raziel. This cannot be a coincidence. You sound like the Sphinx, Raziel responded, stretching its massive neck. There is a reason we have Shioni as our advisor, Valerius pointed out. It is because they will not leave either, Raziel growled. Valerius grinned. That was true as well. It was not as if he had chosen Shioni. She had shown up to his lair in the Moldavian mountains just before the existence of shifters had been revealed to humanity, and when the issue was being hotly debated. Not that he had known that. He had little to no contact with anyone, let alone involved in the high level of shifter politics. She'd bowed low, spreading her arms to the sides, and said, Dragon King Valerius, most mighty of shifters, I come to offer my services to you. Why would I want, let alone need your services? He'd asked as he'd regarded this beautiful woman with her sun-kissed skin standing in his blustery front hall. My name is irrelevant. If you cannot explain why you are here, you will be leaving. Either way, really, you will be leaving. He'd growled at her as he'd crossed his arms over his bare chest. He wore nothing. He shifted so often, and had no visitors, that he rarely put on clothes. He was not going to do so for this uninvited guest. Besides, he could tell from the nightshine in her eyes that she was a shifter, and the magic she gave off indicated she was an ancient one. Instead of getting angry or affronted, she gracefully rose and continued to smile. I have long been an advisor to the rulers of the world, and now I come to offer to advise you as you take your role as leader of all shifters. He laughed. He laughed so hard that his body had shook from it. The noise echoed around the stone castle that was so old and most of it had fully gone to ruin, but it was high up in the mountains where no one went any longer and where the cloud cover was low. There was also a large series of caves where he and Raziel could sleep in their dragon form. He spread his arms wide to encompass the tumbled-down front hall. I am the king of the world, don't you see? Valerius scowled at her. I care to rule no one and nothing. If everyone were to leave this world, I would find it pleasant. I'm afraid that by staying in the shadows, Dragon King, and not taking your rightful place in the world, you will find that even in this desolate spot, that you will have no peace, she answered agreeably. He frowned at her. Anyone who comes here leaves? She let out a small laugh. I'm sorry, I shouldn't tease you. But if you were half as disagreeable as you are pretending to be, I would not have made it this far. You would have punted me off the mountain immediately. I still could, he warned her, his voice going more growly. But he was impressed that she noted this. She was not a fool. She likely read people well. He, on the other hand, was very out of practice. Yes, you could, she laughed almost delightedly. But you won't, because you have been alone too long. I hope you are enjoying Dragon's Reign so far. I've been talking a lot about the membership site I have, but I also do publish individual books under the pen name Ex Aratare, which have the same type of adventurous plot, magic around every corner, and happily ever afters as Dragon's Reign. While I love shifters, my biggest love is actually vampires. I have a book series out called The Vampires Club. It's about a cursed vampire and the young man whose blood may be able to cure him. It's filled with mystery, scheming, dark deeds, and, of course, sensual scenes. If you want to check it out, a link to the Vampires Club series is in the description down below. I prefer to be alone. His jaw clenched. But had he not allowed her to approach in order to hear another voice? Dragons do need their solitary moments, she agreed. But not all the time. Besides, the world needs you. The world needs no one. It spins on regardless. The people on it, then. She accepted the correction with grace. He was just tired of shifters and humans thinking that somehow they were necessary to the world. They were not. The world was quite beyond them. Then what do the people of this planet need from me? He asked. The debate as to whether to reveal ourselves to the humans has taken a turn towards revelation, she told him. He scowled again. That argument has been made millions of times. Yes, but human technology has gotten to a point where our existence will be revealed either with or without our consent, she answered him. You have retreated to this desolate space because it speaks to your nature, but in truth, if you hadn't, you would have been forced to in order to remain a secret. Others cannot, or are not willing to take such measures. He let out an angry snarl. Ha! They think the humans will welcome them with open arms if they reveal themselves? There will be chaos, and more than that, there will be death on both sides. Yes, the revelation of our existence will shake humanity to its core. Some of its institutions will simply crumble under the weight. Nothing will be the same. Her smile had died completely. But the reveal will happen regardless. Managing what happens after is what you are needed for. That had him laughing again, but it was a sharp, short bark of laughter. Ha! You have met me. Do you think I would be a good politician? Because that is what you need. That is not all of what is needed. But I will handle the political aspects for you. That is why I am here. But you must be the one to unite the shifters and the humans afterwards, she said. He was already shaking his head before she was halfway through speaking. You have come to the wrong place and asked the absolutely wrong person. You are more than how you began this journey as a shifter, King Valerius, she said. He turned his back and started striding away from her deeper into the castle. I am not your savior. But you can be, she called to him. You just have to accept that even you can change. Caden and Iolaire raced around the field, chasing their own tail, drawing Valerius out of his memory. Change. I must change again, he thought grimly, though he could almost hear Shioni laughing at him. He knew that she would say something like, You would compare having Caden and Iolaire with you as burdensome as ruling the world, my king? He rolled his eyes at the imaginary Shioni. It showed how deeply she had bored into his life from that first moment to now, but now seemed almost far more desperate than that original meeting. Or maybe he had hoped that once he sorted the post-reveal of the shifters, he could retreat. But this situation, not just with Iolaire and Caden, but humans first and Ilarion, showed him that this was a dream. One that he knew was long gone, if he had even really wanted it any longer. Raziel stretched his wings out again. You want this. You want us to change, Valerius answered. But he looked grim still. We must change again. Trouble comes with change. You know this. And allowing others, Raziel tracked the frolicking white dragon, into our life will cause weakness. And strength, Valerius added. Caden and Iolaire had caught their tail and now was rolling around on the ground. Well, in a manner of speaking. This is our territory. Yes. We only allow them to remain here. Raziel wanted that made clear. I'll let you try to tell them that, Valerius remarked dryly. I will. Raziel sounded a little defensive. Valerius smiled. Of course you will. You will have your opportunity soon. There will be war. Raziel changed the subject. Keeping them here. You of all dragons should be eager for that, Raziel. You've wanted to fight for ages. Valerius responded with a wry smile and shake of his head. True. Raziel tapped its claws on the ground. At least you are not so angry anymore, Valerius said to him. You worried me. What changed your mind? What changed yours? The black dragon spirit tilted its head to the side. Valerius frowned. It had been a million little things. Not one of them could be pointed to and said, "There, that is the moment. If we bond with them, their newness to all of this will weaken us," Raziel pointed out. Bonding? What? No, Valerius started. There is to be no talk of bonding. Not at this time. He's far too young and too new, as you have said. But if he is not bound to us, the others will simply continue to seek his favor or attack him, Raziel said. You want to be bonded now? Valerius demanded to know. Red eyes regarded him. What is ours is ours. That is not. Valerius stopped as he saw that this conversation was being listened to, or at least Caden-Iolaire had noticed his unease. He could not speak of this to Raziel when he did not know his own mind, and he certainly didn't want Caden or Iolaire to hear him at this point. But Caden-Iolaire was looking up at him with huge blue eyes. They tilted their head and that pink tongue lolled out. Valerius gave him a smile. Continue exploring, or are you tired of the ground? There are some fascinating rocks over there, Valerius said. They gave him a narrow-eyed gaze. He laughed, which had them grinning again. All right, I shouldn't tease you, but I will. Oh, I will. But if you are truly tired of the ground for now, shall we take to the air together? Caden-Iolaire made a burbling, happy sound and flapped their wings. This time I won't make Caden take over your flying form, Valerius said with a barely hidden smile. The alarmed look that came from both Caden and Iolaire had him grinning. Now, Caden, you did very well before, Valerius reminded them both. Slowly, Caden-Iolaire nodded, but then cast a look at the rocky outcropping. They were clearly pointing out that their last attempt for Caden to take control was not exactly a success. Valerius smiled. Now, failure teaches far better than success. I will tell you about my first time flying, but later. We need to take the skies now, together. Finally, Raziel murmured with approval. And Valerius felt Raziel surge forward. Their human form was transformed in a moment to that of the titanic dragon form. When he opened his eyes, Caden-Iolaire was now before him. He was 1.5 times the size of the white dragon. Caden-Iolaire was looking up at him with wide blue eyes. Their mouth was parted with awe. They are so tiny, delicate, Raziel snorted. But there was no sense of criticism from him, but more of almost fondness. They were able to fight us, Valerius reminded. Raziel shook their head. Strong but mighty, perhaps. But things would have gone far differently if the battle had continued. Yes. Valerius had to concede that. He shuddered at the thought of a broken white body on the ground. Are you glad that it did not? There was the slightest pause, and then Raziel nearly whispered, Yes. Valerius smiled, but whatever he was going to say was lost as Caden-Iolaire got up on their hind legs in order to be eye to eye with them. He lowered their head to make it completely even. Then a clever pink tongue licked their nose before Caden-Iolaire turned and dashed away before looking over their shoulder at him. Chase me, play, chase me, let's fly, Valerius heard from them. The white dragon took flight, flapping their wings gracefully before soaring upwards. Chase them, play. Valerius narrowed his eyes as both he and Raziel smiled. Let us fly, indeed. And then Raziel and Valerius powerfully flapped their huge black wings and lifted off the earth and into the skies. But unlike before, where he would simply set his sights on a star and fly, he focused on the white, flashing form of Caden-Iolaire. I hope you enjoyed this week's chapter. Just a reminder that if you join Wraith Reign as a member, the membership is 15 to 20 episodes ahead of the free podcast. If you'd like to join and listen to all those extra podcasts, not to mention getting access to the other stories and manga on Wraith Reign, a link is down below.